Hello everyone and welcome to another math video. In this video I will be covering notes for assignment 9 in the course ABS. More generally speaking, this video is all about graphing. How do you graph ordered pairs? We need to familiarize ourselves with the Cartesian Coordinate Plane, graphing some ordered pairs, and then we're just going to jump right into graphing lines using an XY T-chart or T-table or however you want to call it. Let's begin. So the very first thing that we need to talk about is the actual coordinate plane. This is what it looks like. And the most common variables that are used are x and y. Maybe you've taken a physics course before and you know s and t or v and t or something like this. And in math, generally we use x and y. And these bolded lines here are what we call axes, which I'll talk a little bit more in a second. But you'll notice that they are what we say perpendicular, and they divide the coordinate plane into 4 parts. There we go. And these 4 different areas, let's say the upper right, the upper left, the lower right, and the lower left are all called quadrants. There are 4 of them, a quad. So we have quadrant 1 here, quadrant 2 here, quadrant 3 here, and quadrant 4 here. We'll get to why those are important in just a little bit. From there, I can talk a little bit more about these axes. We have the y-axis and the x-axis. And the x-axis is horizontal. It represents the independent variable, the value of the independent variable, and has the equation y equals 0. And I'll talk more about this equation a little bit later in this video. The y-axis, on the other hand, is vertical. It represents the values of the dependent variable and has an equation of x equals 0. Lastly, the scales. You'll notice here that if we start, as I'm going a little bit ahead, at the origin, and we move a little bit to the right, 1, 2, 3, each of these jumps to the next tick on the axis are just increasing by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If we go up, 1, 2, 3. If we go left, -1, -2, -3, negative. If we go down, -1. They're all changing by 1. Eventually, those scales could change. You could be jumping by 2s here and by 10s here. You just have to take note, how far does each jump represent? Cool. Lastly, we have ordered pairs or points. The points are in fact ordered. They will always be ordered with the x value first and the y value second. And the second bit about this is that we have a very special point where these axes meet, and that is what we call the origin. And we call it the origin because that's where we start when we want to graph ordered pairs. So down here, we want to look at some ordered pairs. So the first ordered pair I want to look at is A. And yes, we will label ordered pairs with a capital letter. So what A is telling me is that we are trying to get to a position on this coordinate plane, a position of 2, 3. So at the same time, we want the x value to be 2 and the y value to be 3. How do we get there? Well, generally, we start from the origin. So I'm going to start here at the origin. And you'll notice if I go right, there are positive x values, and if I go left, there are negative x values, just like the old number line you know and love. So it's telling us to go to the value 2. So that means I'm going to go to the right, over here to 2. From here, what the y value is telling you, 3, it's saying go up 3 from there. So you can see if we go above the origin, we're in positive y values. If we go below the origin, we're in negative y values. So we're just going to go to the right 2 and up 3. So right there, I'm going to put a point. There it is. and I'm going to call that point A. And we can do something very similarly for point B. Point B tells us that we need to go x value of 3. So from here I have to go 1, 2, 3 to the right, and then to a y value of 2, up 2. So right here. And this tells you very quickly that the order does matter. It's in the name, ordered pairs. So let's see what happens now with point C. Point C is saying, hey, what we need to do is we need to go to the x value of 4, which would be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And then it says to a y value of 0. Now what does that even mean? Well, positive y values are above the origin, negative y values are below the origin. That means 0 would be at the same level as the origin. So here I go, C would go right here. Let's continue, let's keep going, no reason to stop. We have point D here. D says x value of -1 and a y value of 3. So this is our first time we get to go left because the -1, even though you can't see it, I'm sorry about that, -1 is here, and then we have to go to the y value 3, which is above the origin. So it would be right here. And we can label that point D. And then we just have a couple more left over here, like point E. Point E is saying go to the right 2 and down 2 because the x value 2 is over here. And then it says the y value is -2. We would go here. So there's E. Point F says what? Go left 1 and down 4. So real quick, -1 the x direction, -4 in the y direction. So right here, that is F. And then we have point G, which would be 0. Oh, what? So the x value is 0 here. Well, I guess that means we can't go left any because that makes us negative. We can't go right any because that makes the x value positive. So that just means we have to stay right in the middle here and then find a y value of -6. So right about there. There we go, that is point G. Okay, so we have some points on the coordinate plane. Now, one more thing I want to, no pun intended, point out to you is these quadrants. I want to go back and talk about these quadrants again. So in quadrant 1, ordered pairs will always have 2 positive coordinates. So you go back and look at points A and B, they have all positive coordinates. In quadrant 2 will have ordered pairs that will have a negative x coordinate and a positive y coordinate. Now I'm going to stop here for a second. Think about this. The points in quadrant 2 have a positive y coordinate. The points in quadrant 1 have a positive y coordinate. So anything above the x-axis has a positive y coordinate. Huh, okay. Let's go back and look at quadrant number 3. Quadrant number 3 has ordered pairs, or contains ordered pairs that have coordinates that are both negative. So you can see there's only one example of an ordered pair like that. It's not on either axis. It's in quadrant 3. F, yep, both coordinates are negative. And then quadrant 4 will have a positive x coordinate and a negative y coordinate. So now, just like I did up here with quadrant 2 and 1 saying, hey, all of the y values are positive, in quadrant 3 and 4, all of the y values are negative. So it seems like this horizontal line separates all of the positive y values and all the negative y values. So what does that mean? What number is between positive and negative? Well, the only number between positive and negative is 0. And since this line breaks up the y values from being positive and negative, we have to call this y equals 0. Just to give some more meaning as to why the equation of the x-axis, what we call the x-axis, the equation has a y in it, because it literally separates the positive y's from the negative y's. Very much like the y-axis has an equation x equals 0, because if you look to the right of the y-axis, all of the x's are positive. If you look to the left of the y-axis, all of the x's are negative. So the only thing that changed from moving left to right were the x values. X's were negative, boom, we hit this line, now the x's are positive. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to conclude notes for assignment 9, part 1, right here. But before I go, I am going to introduce everybody to my little amazing daughter here. Go ahead, kiddo.
Hello. I am, as you know, like he said, his daughter, and he just makes me so cuckoo.
What? Tell him your name, Goober.
I'm Cecilia, and it is so good to meet you guys.
What are you looking forward to this school year?
Well, the school year I'm moving to 3rd grade. I just moved from 2nd grade, and I am hoping for the school year that I have an awesome time.
Who's going to be your teacher?
Miss Salceda and Miss Berg.
And who's going to be your teacher here?
My dad.
Are you excited to have me for a teacher?
Yep.
Oh, thanks for the hug, kiddo. All right, everybody, that is the notes for assignment 9, or how to baby steps in graphing. And I will link the next video for this set of notes where I will cover how to graph linear functions or linear equations with 2 variables. Good luck.